What if the entire Adelson murder plan falls apart because the TV repairman showed up way too early? Welcome back. I'm Carolyn with Moms for Justice. So great to have you guys. I am doing a brand new video for you today. I hope that you will love it as much as I do because I got a new theory. So first of all, when you make an appointment with a repairman, let's say it's like HVAC, electrical, appliance, or maybe even a TV repair, they always give you like a window of time that you have to be available for them to show up. And you're always at the mercy of that time. And you usually have to take like the day off from work, or you need to take half the day off from work. And even if you don't work, you have to make sure that you go nowhere for that 4 or 5 window of time. And in addition to this, how often does that repairman actually show up at the beginning of that window, right? Well, for me, guys, they never show up at the beginning, ever. Like, I'm like waiting for that entire window of time, and then the last 15 minutes is usually when they show up for me. So I think for like most people, it is like within the last half hour that they actually show up. So I think I may have uncovered some new insight into what really happened on the day that Dan Markel was murdered. And this time, my theory has really evolved over time. And over the years, I have studied this case from back as far as like 2017. It's just that I was not on YouTube until like a year ago. And now I'm here with this platform to be able to put out all the things that I have read about, studied about. And now that I have you guys, I'm able to give you all my thoughts. But over that period of time, things have evolved for me. And only until recently did I come up with this whole brand new theory. So the details have shifted. So now I believe the pieces are coming together for me. So let me be clear about something now. And I do feel that I need to do this often. I will be very quick about it, but this is just my theory. And while it's built on evidence and facts that are already on record, what you're about to hear from me is suspicion and speculation. You can take it, weigh it, challenge it, but above all, make sure you listen closely to this. And make sure you're commenting below so I know what you guys think about what I'm about to say. So quick recap for you all. Beloved Florida FSU professor Dan Markel was gunned down in his garage on July 18, 2014 by 2 hitmen hired by Charlie and Donna Adelson, who are now convicted and sitting in jail. Charlie is the ex-brother-in-law of Dan Markel, and Donna is the ex-mother-in-law of Dan Markel. They are sitting in jail alongside, well, not literally, the 2 alleged co-conspirators in this whole thing that have not been tried and are walking free is Harvey Adelson, the ex-father-in-law of Dan Markel, and then Wendi Adelson, who is the ex-wife of Dan Markel, and together they have 2 children. She is free, but not free from suspicion. She is not free from public scrutiny, and there is no other reason for this except her own behavior in the weeks and months leading up to this murder. Her actions and demeanor, seen by all of us and everybody that's watched this case unfold, it only creates a shadow of doubt on her, right? And not because of what others have said about her, but because of what she herself has shown through contradictions, her tone, her timing, and her choices, her behavior. Every interview, every comment, and every move she has made has deepened the mystery about her rather than clearing her name. And then you add fuel to the fire, an overwhelming amount of circumstantial evidence. Witness testimony, especially from Jeffrey Lacasse, who was her boyfriend at the time, closest to this situation in 2013 and 2014. And he will tell you himself that he spent so much time with her. He was with the kids. They were on dates. This relationship was getting, on the surface, to be closer. She even indicated later in 2014 that she wanted him to get a new car and to consider moving in with her. So this relationship was turning into something more serious. So he was with her all the time. So he knows. So I find his testimony and his interviews with the police to be extremely credible. He paints a picture of a woman that is entangled in lies, secrecy, and shifting narratives, okay? And his account provides an unfiltered glimpse into Wendi's mindset in the critical months before the murder. This reveals fear, bitterness, calculated distance, all of which only strengthen this belief that What happened to Dan Markel was not a random act of violence, but the accumulation of a long brewing plan where we believe she is very much the kingpin. Okay, so new theory for y'all. The day of Dan Markel's murder, and I have notes here, okay, because I wanted to make sure that you can understand it in a certain way in chronological order. Wendi has an appointment with the Geek Squad to repair her TV. It has been broken, this TV, for about a month. This in itself is outrageous, right? It's absolutely outrageous because most people will just go ahead and buy a new TV. They're so cheap today that leaving a TV broken for that long with 2 children is just not something a mother or 2 parents would do, right? Your kids need to watch their TV. You would go and replace it within 48 hours. I'll give you 48 hours. This is also despite Jeff offering to go ahead and buy her a new TV, and she was like panicked and like, no, I'm getting it repaired. So with a planned murder on its way and set to occur right after Dan gets back from going to the gym that morning on July 18th, 2014, which, by the way, Wendi would be privy to the knowledge of his schedule and know that he goes to the gym. A window of time that is given to Wendi Adelson is 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. from the Geek Squad. And like I said before, they always have to give you a wide range time frame because they're going from house to house and they don't know how quickly each appointment will take. So they give you a window of time. So, number one, I really believe that they assumed, like most of us, that he wouldn't show up at the crack of dawn, that he wouldn't show up at the very beginning of the window of time. So I think they estimated around 11, which is when the murder does occur. They really do need this repairman to show up around 11 o'clock, okay? And I think it would even be okay, give or take 45 minutes to an hour, because at least it's close to 11. If it's 10 or if it's 12, it still works out where, it puts her at her address and, it becomes an alibi for her. He shows up around 8:30, 9 o'clock a.m. He gets there to assess the broken TV with lines in it going across. That's what's reported, is that there's like broken lines in the TV, and quickly sees that this TV is unfixable, okay? Now, the TV repairman confirms in his statement to the police that Wendi Adelson appeared upset and was texting someone at the same time while talking to the repairman. The first part of my theory is that this aligns with the TV repairman showing up early and this being a total surprise to her. Now, this was not an intended plan. So there she is, probably physically and emotionally disheveled. I imagine that she's in pajamas, or maybe she's wearing that ratty, ragged outfit that we all see in the picture with the owl t-shirt on it. Hair's thrown up in a bun, minimal makeup, okay? So now we know that Wendi is a hot mess at this point, okay? She always gets anxiety, according to Jeff, over how she appears to others. So she's a bit of a doormat and wants to please people. She also can't seem to pull anything off on her own other than maybe drafting a legal document, right? But on a social, emotional level, she seems to want the approval of other people. She can't drive long distances by herself. She couldn't go to her own kid's soccer game without dragging Jeff along because she was afraid to be confronted by Dan and didn't know how to speak to him. She would get nervous and flub her words. This is important. And then here's another good point that I want to say. Jeff talked about in his interview that she would do anything Daniel Sack told her to do. And I think you guys know what I mean by that. If you know anything about those interviews, you'll know what I mean. But she kind of Daniel Sack, according to Jeff, made suggestions about their sexual activities. And she relayed back to Jeff that she was participating in these things. And Jeff thought she was just kind of going with the flow. I assume it was because she kind of was really crushing on Daniel Sack and would do anything this guy said.
The other guy's gone. Sack, wherever she's gone to.
And by the way, make sure that she saw Sack once a week for 20 minutes of sex. I don't know the relationship, I don't know what kids learn about me. So I don't know. She didn't attach herself to Sack. He was into polyamory and having multiple partners. He's bisexual. So she started doing all this crazy stuff. Sack was encouraging her, from what she said, to have sex with lots of people, not just him. I worry about her. So I've just seen her, and doesn't want to be controlled, but she does want to be controlled. She can do a lot of sex stuff and things where she wants to be told what to do. And one of the things I worry about is that somebody came up with this idea and she went along with it because she doesn't know how to say no. She hates confrontation, things like that. So in June, I was walking around saying to my friends, I don't know what's going on. It's just uncanny to think back on it now. So I don't know what's going on, but something's gonna happen. It feels like there's drum beats. It feels like we're moving towards something. It's really, really strange. I don't know what's going on.
As per Jeff, she would act like bizarre and strange. And this is totally believable to me because he talked about leading up to the murder, how weird and strange her behavior continually got. And the theory behind that is if you're arranging a murder, as that murder gets closer and you know that it's right down the road or right around the corner, you're going to start acting really nervous, right? And then she started drinking and then she started throwing up and feeling sick to her stomach. Yeah. So stay with me here because I am not done with this theory. So it is completely believable to me that she is standing there, whether it be in her kitchen, family room area, standing there disheveled in a panic because the repairman is there. He shows up too early and then she starts flapping her gums and then out she blurts, this TV was this TV was a gift from my brother Charlie because it was cheaper than hiring a hitman. Uh-oh. That wasn't part of the plan. You think Charlie and Donna thought that she would say something like that to the repairman? I don't think so. And I think that was just Wendi being Wendi. So that's a really bad, damaging statement. And now the TV repairman has heard her say it and could easily tell the police at a later time when he is questioned. So now she's nervous, okay? Call logs then tell us that she's back and forth, making calls and texting with family and multiple people. So could she have said to her brother when she was on the phone with him, I opened my mouth about the TV hitman joke? The call with Charlie was long. It was 18 minutes long. Could that have been one of the things that she said to him when she's on the phone with him? So 18 minutes to sit on the phone with Charlie, you're already upset. The repairman says that she was upset. You could be maybe, I'm in a big mess. I said too much about the TV. So then it is my belief that she gets advice at this point from Charlie. Maybe something along the lines of, all right, we're going to need to come up with a plan B. Now, what could plan B consist of? So some of the advice he might give her is, well, we're going to need to track, we need to show proof of where you've been. So you need to start sending emails to people. You need to make calls to everyone you know. Do something for work and submit it, which she does do. Make lunch plans with somebody, which was not originally on her schedule, I don't believe. So then a work project is rushed through, completed, and submitted. And there's a record of it, right? Multiple emails to people would prove that she was at Aqua Ridge Way. Then calls and texts to Janine and Ritu to set up lunch. That would make them solid witness testimonies if she should need them at a later time. So the TV repair guy ends up leaving quicker than she thought to. He was only there for about 40 minutes. Let's take a quick look at the TV repairman's statement. The TV repairman is Robert Swartz. He worked for Geek Squad at Best Buy. This was on Appalachia Way, I think it is, and Tallahassee. So upon arriving, he writes and signs to this. Now, this isn't necessarily what exactly he said. He signed this statement, but there was more that I heard later on from other detectives that had spoken out where they gave a little more detail. But this was apparently what they wanted on paper for Robert Swartz to sign. So here's what Robert Swartz says. Upon arriving at the client's home, the client stated there were lines in TV. Upon inspection, I informed her there was impact damage, and although she did not seem distraught. You could see in her face that she was upset. And they even put in parentheses, sad. Remember her saying that her son said he didn't do it, meaning he didn't, break the TV. And then she said her son said he didn't do it, but she wasn't there when the accident occurred with the TV. And he was being watched by her dad, that's Harvey, at the time. I went over costs for replacement, and the client stated the TV was a gift from her brother at some point. I believe she was texting him or someone. I talked to the client about prices, and she stated she would speak with somebody, and I left with the intent to call later about the decision. So she never went on to say anything about, no, don't fix it, come back later, another appointment, nothing like that was ever scheduled. I do find it very interesting that he would actually make sure it was in the report that he thought she was on the phone with Charlie. That is very, very telling, because obviously there are things or things that you overheard her say on the phone that implied that it was the brother. So why else would somebody that, is from the Geek Squad, he doesn't know you, why would he even mention the brother? He knew enough to do that. So there must have been an indication that she was on the phone with Charlie. And honestly, I think part of that phone call was just to say, he's here early, he's early, and then there ends up being an 18-minute call. So I just think it's really interesting. I really do. Now, there's more I want to say about Robert. Now, this here is all alleged, but I've looked around and it's been said, and it could just be rumor, but that he did confirm at some point in an interview that it was a divorce present. Okay, the TV was a divorce present, and that she may have mentioned that it was cheaper than getting a hitman, and that was the brother's joke. Prosecutors noted, however, that there were texts between her and her mom about the appointment, which gave her an alibi for the murder that morning. He came to Wendy's house, was identified as Robert Schwartz. Police records confirmed that Wendy's mother had scheduled the TV repair for that morning, and Best Buy service logs show the repair call was completed on July 18, 2014. Schwartz said he arrived at Adelson's home around 8:30 and then left by 9:45 a.m. I've had other reports say that he arrived at 9 and was gone within 30-40 minutes. So during the visit, he examines the TV, notes the screen has impact damage, went over replacement costs, and while no public transcript of the interview of Robert Schwartz is available, there is the signed statement. But the following points come from summaries that are reported in court filings and media. So take a listen. So he says Adelson did not act panicked or hysterical, but he could tell that she was very upset. He said her face looked very sad, and she was not crying or distraught, just looking sad. He explained that the repair, he explained to her repair versus replacement costs. Wendi repeatedly mentioned that the TV had been a gift from her brother Charlie and even appeared to be texting Charlie about what to do next. Schwartz noted that Adelson was focused on the TV. Most importantly, Schwartz reported that Adelson insisted her son Lincoln had not broken the TV. Schwartz had said that he relayed all these observations to police, and these details about Adelson's demeanor and statements were included in the police report. The interview takes place on the 18th, the same day as the murder, so they must have had a detective drive out to him, maybe. There is no documentation on the name of the detective that I could find that, gave this interview with Robert Schwartz. But it is noted here that Schwartz's statement was entered into the case file of the Damarkel murder shortly after the murder and used to establish Wendi Adelson's alibi timeline that morning. So here's where I think things get a little murky, okay? Like I said before, I think that when she called Charlie earlier and notified Charlie that the repair guy was there, and I think the hint was, he's here early, we got a problem, right? I think he was the one who probably gave her suggestions about emails, get some work done, you need to stay busy, we need to make sure that we have a record of where you've been, okay? I think then at 12:15, this is when she begins to run her errands. So I think from here on out, the decisions she is making from 12:15 on are all her own. And she like embellishes and adds on to her schedule. So taking Charlie's advice, but not telling him she would take it upon herself to drive to the crime scene. I don't think Charlie knew about that, and that is very understandable because when you hear wiretap calls, he is livid and disgusted with the idea that she had driven by the crime scene, which basically sunk everybody, right? So I want you to imagine her frame of mind. I've got to do something, right? I have to do something here. I've got to do more. She's panicked. You know, again, this is all theory and speculation on my part, but follow along with me because it really makes a lot of sense to me. So she gets in her car and she takes it upon herself to go head over to the crime scene. She shoves in a nice long phone call to her friend in England, who can also say that he was busy on the phone with Wendi. It is my belief that it is part of her plan B now to show up at Dan's house. And by finding him, this might make her look less responsible, right? By being a damsel in distress who finds her kid's father dead, right? Now, remember, she is in panic mode. At this point, I think it's like fight or flight, right? Donna and Charlie are nowhere in Tallahassee, so she's feeling very much, I'm on my own with this one. I'm going to have to figure this out. They're so many miles away. They can't help me anymore. So I think she took it upon herself to take Charlie's advice and try to do more than what Charlie said. So she adds in this drama of a grieving ex-wife to complicate things more, fails to let her family know that she's actually going to do this. I think her frame of mind was that, well, most people would never think that I'm responsible for his death if I'm driving to the crime scene. What idiot would drive to the crime scene if she had been involved in the murder, right? So I think that this actually helps her a little bit. I mean, she would really have to be stupid, right? But as we all know, that doesn't work out because she gets to the crime scene and the police are there. Crime scene tape is there. I mean, it happened all so fast. Thank you to the neighbor for placing the phone call. Because in most instances, how many times are they, people aren't home that time of day. A lot of people are at work, with the exception of like some elderly people that were next door. And maybe they didn't factor that in when they were doing the murder. Hey, the neighbor's home all the time. But the thing is honestly, if a murder's happening at 11 a.m. on a Friday afternoon, most people are not home. So I would think they'd have some extra time, or they'd have at least a few hours before he'd be naturally found by somebody, right? She gets there and she panics even more because now the plan's not working out. So suddenly showing up at that lunch now becomes a priority to her. The lunch that she had no intention to go to, it was only a decoy. It was only an alibi to establish by making the plans, because we all know now she wasn't dressed to go to lunch, right? So she shows up at the crime scene, and now that she sees the tape and the police, she's like, oh my gosh, I've got to go to that lunch now. Then she adds in a stop at the liquor store. And remember the Stock the Bar party? It was supposed to be late that night around 6:30. She had all afternoon to get the bourbon. So I think originally she wasn't even going to get the bourbon at the time she gets it, because don't forget, she was going to exchange the kids with Dan around 4:30, and she could have made the stop then on the way, stopped and got the bullet bourbon. She had like plenty of time later in the day to get the bourbon, but instead she's like, okay, plans change. Now I'm going to go get the bourbon too and establish a receipt for a time period around this murder. She then goes and gets gas in her car to fill up more of her time and produce a receipt. Now, one thing I think is really interesting is I need to find that receipt. I probably should have found the receipt or seen if it was available prior to doing this video, but I didn't. But anyway, what's interesting is how much was the gas on the receipt? Did she even need to fill up her tank? Did she have only half a tank? 3/4 of a tank, or did she really truly needed gas? So isn't that interesting? Because let's say she has 3/4 a tank of gas. Well, most people aren't going to stop and top off their gas when they have 3/4 of gas. So I need to find out about that receipt. How much did she pay for the gas? And don't forget that later on in the interview with Detective Isom, she's digging in her purse and like, just take my receipts, right? She wanted those receipts. She's showing those receipts, happy to show those receipts. That's because she is shoving alibis in Isom's face. So that brings me now to the bizarre outbursts at the time of her interview with Detective Craig Isom. Within the first 20 minutes, first 20 minutes, she tells him, my brother joked about buying me this TV as a divorce present because it was cheaper than hiring a hitman. So guys, with the knowledge that she had already opened her big mouth and blurted this out to the TV repairman, she had to make it all make sense now. So she knew Isom is going to question the TV guy, and the TV man would tell Isom that, well, she mentioned this, her brother with the TV, and it was a purchased divorce present and all that. She knew that that was going to be found out by Craig Isom. So I really think the fact that she blurted it out in the first 20 minutes of her interview was because she was flustered, panicked, and this is her way of trying to cover her tracks. So one thing I do want to say is that in criminal psychology, innocent people and guilty people, they handle pressure very differently when being questioned by the police, okay? So especially when there has never been a direct accusation made yet. And in this case, Wendi was just the ex-wife brought to the station. It really was not an interrogation. It was just an interview. So nobody was pointing fingers at her at this point. And Isom later does confirm that he didn't look at her as anything yet. By the time he walked her into that interview, he hadn't looked at her as anything but the ex-wife that he needs to get some information from. So innocent subjects tend to answer what's asked and then wait for direction. Okay, so they assume that the truth will clear them. That's what an innocent person does. But a guilty person, and this is the key here, a guilty person often feels the burning need to control the narrative early on. They will blurt out their explanations for things investigators haven't even brought up yet, right? They will dig in their purse and bring out receipts. They will make statements like, well, I know that the spouse is usually the first person you look at. Or how about, my brother bought me that TV as a divorce present because he said that it was cheaper than hiring a hitman. You know what I mean? Like only guilty people behave that way. And that is something that I have found. Whenever I look at an interrogation on YouTube or whatever, and I immediately look for that, because the truth is that innocent people, they just sit there and want to be a help. They just want to help. And they answer things truthfully, and they don't assume at all that they are a suspect. That's kind of like when people cheat, right? If you cheat a lot and you're like somebody that sleeps around behind your partners, they're usually the first ones to blame the other person and say, you must be cheating on me. And that's because that's what they know. They know they're cheaters, so they're going to assume another. So when you know that you are guilty, you tend to act guilty by bringing up things that could only make you look guilty. So Wendi, she wasn't even accused of anything at that moment, right? And within the first 20 minutes, she volunteers that very statement, and that statement ends up defining this case. That is not a coincidence. That's psychology. So let's not forget about Jeff, okay? Wendi stringing him along, despite the relationship being dead in the water, the timing of the murder aligning almost perfectly with his planned trip to Tennessee. Don't forget, there was the first failed attempt at the murder, and Jeff had 2 trips planned, and they happened to have happened or were planned during both attempts to murder Dan Markel. Crazy, right? I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in previous get-togethers and conversations that Jane McPherson and Wendi had. What did they discuss? Because I think it's a missing piece in this whole thing. It is speculative. It is just an opinion, but I just feel that because of the bizarre behavior of Jane McPherson, that there was discussions about planting a seed from Wendi to Jane that Jeff was jealous and maybe feeling some rage. That way, when she comes into the interview later, which I think is strategically chosen, Jane is strategically chosen to be the one that comes and saves her butt, would come in armed with this groomed knowledge about Jeff Lacasse being this jealous, raging ex-boyfriend.
Is Jeff this much of a lunatic?
I don't even think of Jeff. I hope to God not.
Let me ask who Jeff is.
Yeah, of course.
I think you should. I think Wendy's been seeing a guy called Jeff.
Who's a friend of Jane's. And
who's jealous.
Yeah.
Are you still currently seeing him, or just something you kind of
Well,
let taper off?
it's
maybe?
been a bad week.
Okay.
Yeah, Jane and I actually went for a walk together Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, early this week.
Earlier this week, but you've taken a 1 week break from
I took
Jeff.
a 1 week break from communication with Jeff to figure out what to do.
Okay.
Because we've been dating for like
A year.
9 months, like 10 months a year.
And when you use the word dating to you, is that's my boyfriend, or is it more of just dating,
Yes.
like the casual? Okay.
Yeah.
No, like he was my boyfriend and involved with the kids, and I mean, yeah. And we had kind of a fight recently, and he's been trying to get back together, and I didn't know if I wanted to, and so he actually, the morning that I gave that talk, my boys were there and Jeff was watching them, so I could give the talk. Like Jane, do you think I have to tell them about him?
I think
guess?
you have to tell them about him, because that is the only,
God forbid.
the only thing that I can imagine related to you, related to Danny, would be
The only
Jeff.
thing I could come up with was like his girlfriend Amy is recently divorced, separated, not really
Sure,
divorced. Like,
sure. So
what if-
either of those people.
Like the jealous boyfriend types, like what if the ex-husband...
Right, totally. And you know that this divorce has been very stressful, and Jeff has been very stressed out by the stressfulness of your divorce. You know,
I mean, I'll tell them this, right? Like, can you tell them?
And when Investigator Isom comes back, you guys can just, stay, and he'll ask all the questions that investigators ask that I don't think of very often, because I'm a victim advocate and I don't think of
right.
things
But I
that.
think you do have to tell about him.
Yeah, I wasn't
You weren't
Not
thinking
telling
of him.
on purpose.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I wasn't thinking of it. I just kept thinking, like, who in the world?
Is he
would do
someone
this?
that has, access to?
He's a professor of social work.
Okay.
He's
All right.
former military. It's just relationally, he's jealous.
Right.
Gee,
Something is bad. I'm
something is bad.
I'm just assuming that this isn't true for the moment, but I guess that's not so.
And you have to look at it this way. Telling them this, if anything, will help them disqualify Jeff.
Right. That's
Yeah.
important to do.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
Do you want to give them his number?
I don't. I mean,
So we can-
I can give them.
They have
I
my
give them-
phone, so-
they certainly have a ton of stuff from him. Don't you? I mean, Jeff would be my vote. Now, again, just going by, likely. I agree with you
Can't
that
be an accident.
he didn't do this. Jeff,
I hope to God he did.
I hope Jeff didn't do it, but I don't think Danny did.
Somebody shot Danny.
Like, to death. Holy shit.
I didn't even know that he was still living. Sarah that told me that, and then I started freaking out and was like, I want to get the boys over there. Like, is he scary looking? Because I want, like, if he's not going to make it, but he's okay. Or he's not, like, I wanted the boys to be able to be
Isn't
with
there?
him.
He's Wendi, of course, they've been interviewing her as a suspect, and I have suggested Jeff Lacasse. That's my contribution. And also suggested that we get a rabbi over there. Because he's alone, he doesn't have family here. This is really terrible. It's really terrible.
Okay, I appreciate you coming up here.
I'll get out of your way.
It's time to go.
Okay.
We got some more stuff we have to take care
Yeah.
of. But I really appreciate you coming up here and talking to her. And
And I've suggested to you that you look at Jeff Lacasse.
that's what Sarah was saying. I'm not sure who that guy is,
Well,
but
she'll tell you about it. And
is she going to tell me everything?
I imagine she will. She's been Danny's a jealous guy, Jeff is a jealous
Okay.
guy. Doing the kind of work I do, I would think, there's this person, and then he loves Wendi. Danny makes Wendy's life very difficult. Wendi is currently making his life very difficult. I don't know him to be a lunatic, but he's a jealous guy.
Okay. All right.
That's what I would
Very
say. He's my colleague, so he's somebody I think of as a decent guy.
That would be who now?
Jeff Lacasse is my
Okay.
colleague.
Okay. All right.
Are you leaving?
Yes.
And also, what was the beef with Jeff from Jane? Jane like, because if you listen to Jeff talking, Jeff is clueless. He has no idea that Jane thinks these things of him. And this is a work colleague of his. He had no reason to think that she would ever backstab him, right? So I feel bad for Jeff when I hear him talking about Jane, because on the flip side, you hear Jane talking to Wendi and it's like totally throwing him under the bus. Jane was so quick to sell him out. And, you know, go see my video on Jane McPherson. I did a whole video just concentrated on Jane and her interactions with Wendi. It's worth a watch, so please go listen to it if you haven't already. But yeah, Jane was perfectly placed into that interview by Wendi to support the information that needed to come out about Jeff Lacasse and being capable of possibly doing this crime. Poor Jeff. I mean, I feel so bad for him. So the joke is on you, Wendi, right? The joke is on you. What we all know now, and what is very compelling, and another big, huge piece of how this whole day went the wrong way than what I believe Wendi, Charlie, Donna, and the rest of them wanted it to go, is Jeff left early for that trip on a Thursday. So what do you guys think about my theory and how it lines up with the evidence? Do you think that I missed anything? I mean, I've spent a lot of time digging into the timeline, and the more I look, the more it feels like the morning of July 18th was never meant to go the way it did. Too many coincidences, right? Too many cover-ups, TV repair that shows up too early, nervous outbursts from Wendi Adelson that becomes, you know, a flurry of phone calls, emails, a work project that has to get done, and all these people are on these call logs. I mean, did she really talk to this many people on a daily basis like this? Or is it just a coincidence that it's happening on the day of a murder? It's just really unbelievable. And then you tell me, so was it bad timing? Or, I don't know. Because until there is full justice and this woman is held accountable for her actions, this story is far from over. I love you all. Please subscribe, like this video, and make sure that you are sharing the channel. We so appreciate your support, and I will see you next time.